Thank you. Your gifts are received with love, and the music is appreciated by all of us. Good morning once again. Today is Easter Sunday, and so I greet you with Happy Easter. Finally, it is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. I'm sure you have been waiting patiently for this day to come. But we'll get back to Easter soon. We might also acknowledge that today is 420 Day, an observation of more recent origin set aside to honor one method of mental alteration and tension release, a day creatively named after Nancy Reagan. It is similar to Easter only because he is risen sounds a little bit like we is high. More seriously, we might acknowledge Passover, which ends at dusk today. It celebrates the narrative of an oppressed people as they start to escape the tyranny of enslavement and move onto a path towards freedom and self-determination. The Jewish exodus from Egypt, apocryphal as it likely is, forms one of the great foundation stories of any world religion and its people. Moses led the Hebrews to the promised land. Now, thousands of years later, the Jewish people have regained control of this land, and we can only hope and pray and protest until it regains the peace and prosperity as promised in the scriptures, the land of milk and honey. And we should also note that this Tuesday brings Earth Day. Earth Day is a biggie in the EU pantheon of holidays, as it encourages us to focus awareness on the interrelated web of life that persists on this planet and which we are very much a part, and pushes us to inform others of the increasing fragility of our ecosystem that sustains us all. This church in our Green Sanctuary team will observe Earth Day, but in a month or so. In the meantime, please treat every day as Earth Day and live in ways that promote planetary well-being. The Earth is our mother, our divine. Now, the Christian Holy Week follows the last week of Jesus' life, when he traveled to Jerusalem for the annual ritual in celebration of Passover. We know these stories well. Jesus entered Jerusalem on a donkey, welcomed by waving palm fronds. He got angry and rowdy in his protests at the temple, further angering the Jewish and Roman officials. He held a Seder meal with his loyal supporters. He was betrayed by one of them and arrested by authorities, and after being tried and sentenced to death, and he was tried and sentenced to death by these authorities. Then on Friday, Jesus and his cross are marched to a hill outside of town where he is crucified in the Roman manner, hung from the cross by nails. Execution is lengthy and extremely painful. Jesus, the man, the teacher, the rebel, the leader, Jesus dies on the cross. His body is soon removed to a nearby cave, awaiting burial after the Sabbath. Good Friday is about the sadness, the horror, and the terror of this horrible death. And thanks to Ani, we have a notion of why they might call this Good Friday. The story is human, and though not typical, it's relatable and fits within our understanding of the way things worked in Jerusalem under Roman rule. If this were the whole story, it would long ago have been buried deep in the flimsy historical record left from those times. But Easter Sunday changes the narrative. Easter Sunday is seen as glorious because Hallelujah, the story goes, that we discover Jesus is risen from the grave. As his risen spirit engages with his closest followers, they come to know that he indeed was resurrected from the tomb, reborn, and soon to ascend to be with God, his Father in heaven. Now, pieces of this story and its theological meaning took many centuries to be fully fleshed out and written by those who write these things. But the gist of the message seems clear to Jesus' followers, the earliest Christians. Jesus was divine, the Son of God. His death was the ultimate sacrifice. It was somehow necessary to atone for human sin and to pave a way for the possible salvation and redemption of the faithful, the believers. Through this death and our faith, humans could reconcile with God and find eternal salvation. We could find paradise and enter heaven. Christianity was a new way to live as a Jew and a path for inclusion in a church, an attachment to one true God for the non-Jews that it attracted. Exactly how Jesus' death served us was never really clear, but seeing resurrection as evidence of his divinity is the foundational Christian belief. So while Good Friday is about sacrifice and salvation, Easter is about rebirth and regeneration. And this understanding weaves seamlessly into those lives of those of us living in the Northern Hemisphere, as it occurs always in springtime, as we experience the regeneration of the natural world, as our lands warm with sunlight from longer days. We made it through another dark and frigid winter. Life now becomes easier, more pleasant. Our Easter celebrations have thus dovetailed with other seasonal rituals and pagan celebrations. So we add a big dose of bunnies and eggs and candies to the mix. This helps to trumpet Easter as a time of joy. Now, at this point in my message, I think I naturally would lean into thoughts of rebirth and regeneration in each of us and soften the heavy religious messaging by finding humanistic metaphors, talking about inner growth, finding purpose and fulfillment in our own lives. Indeed, there are times when any of us do need to change things up, to make adjustments, to shift direction. I know that in my personal life, I have found occasion where it seemed important and necessary to alter my life program, such as when I enrolled in seminary at the age of 60. We all experience things, job changes, right, Ryan? Divorces, remarriage, changing geography, joining a new church, etc. But that's a message for usual times. And I don't see these as usual times. And while we could all use a little fine-tuning in our lives, I think that most of you, at least those of you I know well, are really pretty good as you are. You have done the work to bring yourself to places in life where you have the wherewithal, emotionally and otherwise, to make wise decisions, to take care of yourselves and one another. For the most part, I don't see you as actively seeking redemption, salvation, rebirth, or regeneration. I love you just the way you are. You might like a rest, a reset, a vacation, but that's a different matter. As I see you, it's not your lives that are weighing heavily on your hearts these days. It is not by your own choices that you are unsettled, insecure, uncomfortable, and fearful. And that is because, as I said, these are not usual times. And the big threats you face are not internal. You are not the problem that needs to be fixed. What demands rebirth and resurrection today is leadership in our nation. To push an analogy, what is being crucified is our Constitution, our democracy, our commitment to human justice and moral certainty. Our values are being crucified, and this is tragic. It is heartbreaking, and it's scary as hell. The crisis in American government cannot be solved by gentle influence and moral persuasion, although those don't hurt. It can only be fixed by big changes in power relations, by driving the despots and those who abet them away. And the only real power base left to accomplish this is we, the people. For the near future, we must be active and vigilant, protecting rights whenever and however we can, especially voting rights. Because as I see it, the only way that things will change is through the ballot box. And we must keep that ballot box open. We must vote the greedy and the selfish out. We must be loud and steady in our messaging, loud enough to drown out the ads and media campaigns sponsored by the rich, and steady enough to teach voters on the other side something about truth. Seek truth. Demonstrate, support your causes. This is a time for engagement so that we can recreate a springtime for democracy and civility. But let me put aside these messages here because these are still not really what I want to get said this morning. The other way we can fight the cancers in our society and in our government is just by getting back to our lives. The things in life we value, that give us purpose, that bring us joy. Let us get back to living, to loving our friends and families, to laughing out loud, to making music, serving food, healing the sick, and helping those with needs. All of us find reasons to be angry. We are being fed a steady diet of deeply upsetting and belligerent news. And expressing our outrage is important and necessary. We should all react to these threats. But to borrow a phrase, we can't let the bastards grind us down. We need to remember who we are and what we're about for real in our own lives and loves. We need to refuse to internalize the hatred and anger that we feel as we face each new affront on our decency. Our most powerful weapon is maintaining our goodness, our moral integrity, and joy in our lives, and modeling our love, happiness, and fulfillment as the greatest gifts that we have learned that we can share what we know in our lifetimes. Life breaks through again and again, and so we celebrate Easter. The triumph of life over death, of goodness over wrongdoing, and love over hatred and intolerance. Life breaks through. So be it, blessed be, and hallelujah. I now ask you to rise, if you would like, to join in singing hymn number 266, Now the Green Blade Riseth.